Patreon.com/the Walk-Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there.
Talk some Brandon Belt, of course, our $11 million pickup in free agency, the big lefty bat that this team has been coveting for years. Positional versatility is a question mark when it comes to Brandon Belt. And I mean, we haven't seen him in a spring training game yet, which is nothing to worry about. This is something that he has done the last few years with his bum knee. And I know that the Blue Jays organization is very cognizant of that and are easing him in very much like an old man into a warm bath, right? Get him in there nice and slow. Let's not cause any injuries off the top. So he hasn't even taken a swing in a game yet. It's probably a week or two away from him doing so, but I know that with this said, there's a lot of Jays fans who, for lack of a better term, are worried. Where is Belt going to get his at-bats? Is this going to diminish the amount of ABs Alejandro Kirk is going to get? Alejandro Kirk, of course, his baby finally born, so he's back in camp now. And I mean, these are all Papa Kirk. Congrats to him. These are all valid questions. I feel like it's all going to work out. I mean, Brandon Belt plays a little bit of first base, which he would be able to, when Vladdy's DHing, take over there. Depending on how his knee feels, Brandon Belt can play a slightly below average left field. So if it is an option to get a guy like Varsho off his feet or Springer off his feet and do some shuffling around the outfield and get Brandon Belt in there. I don't think we're going to see Belt play much outfield, but it wouldn't shock me to see him get 10 games in left field this year. That's not crazy. And then if he's playing, let's say 10 at first, right? Vladdy, he's getting older. He's still 24. He's still a baby, right?
Jeez.
But when you're in a contention window, I think it is important to give your stars the odd day off. And that is something that we haven't really seen with Vladdy. And I think we are going to see it a little bit more this season because the depth is there. I think we're going to see it with Bichette a little bit more. I mean, he's a guy who's played 159 games each of the last 3 seasons or something like that. I think we're going to see that scaled down just a bit. It's not going to be massive, but instead of 159, he plays 150. He's feeling a little bit better come playoff time. So when it comes to Brandon Belt, are you concerned at all about at-bats?
Not even a little bit. He's going
worst case is a big bat off the bench, man.
Worst case scenario, he's nothing.
Yeah.
And we spent a few $1,000,000 to get him. That, again, because we're a luxury tax team, we're over the threshold. He didn't take anybody else's spot. He wasn't the difference between us getting Carlos Rodon or not.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't pass up on any other top flight starting pitchers because we're like, oh, we got to save money for Brandon Belt. So, honestly, worst case scenario, he's nothing, literally nothing. And it's like, well, okay. It's like Ryu. It's just that's how I'm looking at it. Whatever we get out of Brandon Belt is amazing, right?
Yeah.
As far as playing time goes, I do see that, once the season starts, he's, I would say, probably our quote unquote full-time DH. Everyday DH. As far as Alejandro Kirk goes, 50 games at DH for him last year, 78 at catcher. So about 200 at-bats as a DH for Alejandro Kirk.
There is probably going to be less DH time available, but again, I really do believe that the season will play out as it plays out. The guys who are hitting are going to be given at bats, and there is going to be a little bit of competition for those ABs, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think with Alejandro Kirk, you and me were both surprised when we look at his splits as a catcher versus as a DH. His numbers are better when he's a catcher. We thought maybe when he didn't have to worry about squatting behind the plate, his bat would be better, but that is actually not the case. Which I guess we kind of figured.
Which is funny, because this is something that we see with young players, right? They are more engaged when they're on both sides of the field, right? It is a tough thing to do. And it's why, you know what, man? Brandon Belt at DH at 34 years old, with the kind of hitting experience he has, is probably going to see an increase in production in that position. And Kirk was great there.
Well, I think too with Kirk, if let's just say we're going to get the same amount of catching games that we got out of Kirk last year, so 78. But instead of DHing 51 times, he DHs 25 times. Maybe the 78 that he's catching are that much better. Like maybe just having a true day off once he is behind the plate again in catcher's gear. It's just like, oh yeah, he's rejuvenated. He's fresh. He's ready to go. As opposed to last season where it was like, well, he just caught twice in a row. We need to give him a day off, but we can't give him a full day off. So we DH him, and then when he's back to catcher, it's like, well, he's not back to 100%. You know, he's back to like 95%. And then the next time through, he's not back to 95%. He's back to 90%. And then the next time through, he's back to 85%. And it's just, you know, it wears on him over the course of the year. So maybe having a full day, an actual day off, will get him back to 100% more often.
I mean, this may even be part of the strategy, right? I think that anyone who is an NBA fan or watched or followed the Raptors in 2019 to their championship, load management.
Ugh, hate that word, don't you?
Was the buzzword of the year, right? But I think that there is some value in giving your best players a little bit of time off to recover from the wear and tear, especially in baseball. My God, you just talked about 162 games. Like, it is a grind, right? And so for a guy like Alejandro Kirk to maybe take a few more games off, yes, from the outside looking in, maybe that's a little bit frustrating. You're like, we got to get his bat in there. But maybe in the long run, it truly does lead to more production because he's just feeling healthier, his body is responding better, and he's more prepared to get up there and go every single game that he's on the field.
What you just said could have exactly applied to George Springer as well. Right?
And I think we're going to see it apply to George Springer.
Exactly. So yeah,
this
optimistic,
is where, dude,
but
it wouldn't shock me if we saw Brandon Belt play 30 games in left field. I know I just said probably 10, but like, who knows, man? Maybe getting Springer off his feet more is something that we're really going to see, and it could surprise us as to how they wind up doing it. But I think the best guys are going to get their at-bats, man.
Yeah, that's what you touched on earlier, and that's the nice thing with where are the bats going to come from is a great problem to have.
Yes.
It's so much better than like, oh, he's going out there.
At the Oakland
we got Bradley Zimmer again. You know, so
why do we got to give this guy at bats?
Yeah, so no, this is for real a good problem to have. Hot hand will for sure be a factor, right? Like, I mean, we talked, could Addison Barger take Cavan Biggio's spot? For all we know, Cavan Biggio adjusts nicely. He's healthy and he's hitting, 285 this year, and is like, oh, we got to get him in the outfield more. Never mind Brandon Belt in left field. We got to put Cavan in left field. Give George a day off so Cavan can go play. Like, that's a real possibility. Or Whit Merrifield. Or, if Espinal's playing all-star level second base, and we're like, well, we need Whit Merrifield's speed and dynamism, dynamicness.
Sure, roll with it.
Frickin' just stop.
It's a real word, guys.
Yeah, all right. Take the L. A lot of dis-hate for my word usage today. But no, that's the thing, right? Is you go, oh, okay, yeah, let's get him in there more because they're just too good right now,
And we haven't even brought up Addison Barger. So, I mean, there is going to be some competition for at-bats. And again, this is just good news for the Jays. If you're a fan, I wouldn't worry about it. I think it's going to all work out, and it's going to work out in the positive.